Hey guys, so for today, the only thing that you need to do is to make sure that you submit your attendance and then have your lesson 2.4 Google Slides open from Canvas. So today is a little bit different. We aren't doing anything in our digital notebook. We're not doing anything in Pear Deck. And then also we're having a Google Slides instead of a Google Doc. All right, so we are going to finish lesson 2.4 as well as chapter 2. And so lesson 2.4 is on applying ideas about genes. And so by the end of today, you guys are going to be able to explain how different gene variations lead to differences in spider silk. All right, for your first activity, your warm-up, you're going to use your knowledge of vocab to answer the warm-up question. All right, so if you go into your Google slide, this is what it should look like. And then this is your warm-up activity. So using the words below, you're going to drag them to the correct place on the diagram. So you've got trait, gene versions, feature, and copies of genes. If you need to pause the video to make sure that you complete this warm-up, go ahead and pause the video. All right, for our activity 2, we've got a modeling tool that Mr. Livinggood has made us. So this is going to be completed in Canvas. This is not a part of the Google Slides that I made today. So this will be another assignment in Canvas. So go ahead and go into Canvas. You're going to go and open up the activity 2. And it should say modeling variation in spider offspring. Once you open that up, you'll see a page that looks like this. All right, so it kind of looks familiar. We actually did this modeling tool in chapter 1. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to create a more complete explanation for this modeling tool. And so a question I would have asked you guys is, why do offspring A's proteins lead to a trait for low silk flexibility? All right, and I hope you would have answered it's because of the gene version, because genes give the proteins instructions. All right, genes give our genes give our proteins instructions, and so if we know what proteins there are, we should also know what genes there are, and vice versa. If we know the instructions for the genes, we should know the proteins. Okay, so in this example here, I know it's a little bit small, but in this example for offspring A, I'm actually going to go into our modeling tool so you can see it a little bit better. For offspring A, you see that it has the protein 1. All right, if you remember from our simulation, that is protein 1. It has the most little hooks kind of off of it. And so if we know that it's protein 1 and there's only protein 1 inside of this cell, we know that it's going to be F1, F1, right? There's only one type of protein. We know it's only going to be or only have one type of gene for the gene versions. So we would put F1, F1 in these circles here. Now, the thing that you need to do after this is you need to distinguish whether the spider's genotype, which is F1, F1, is homozygous or heterozygous. And so what you're going to do is you're going to drag either homozygous or heterozygous over to the yellow area. All right, now if it's F1, F1, that's the same. So from Tuesday, we learned that if they are the same gene version, it's going to be homozygous. All right. So you would have F1, F1, homozygous down here. Now, if you want a little bit more help and you want to see it you can actually go into your simulation and you can look up some of these spiders. So if you want to see the proteins in the cells for a low silk flexibility spider, you can go to your simulation. If you want to see a spider that has medium silk flexibility, you can do that. But a little cheat sheet is down here. So your possible proteins for silk flexibility are here. Protein 1, 2, and 3, which also goes with F1, F2, and F3. So if one of your spiders only has protein 2 in it, your genotype, which is your gene version, would be F2, F2. Right? Now, if your protein, if you only have proteins 2 and 3 in it, your genotype, your gene version, would be F2, F3. And so if it's F2, F3, and they're different, would it be homozygous or heterozygous? Right? I'm going to leave you guys thinking about that. So take some time, pause this video here, and make sure you complete this activity in Canvas. All right, so here's some other things to think about. These are all the key concepts from chapter 2 that we've learned from 2.1 to 2.4 today. And so my question to you, what I want you to start thinking about is how does each of these key concepts relate to the models you just made? So key concept 1, genes are instructions for proteins. Concept 2, each gene version provides a unique instruction to make a specific protein. Number 3, an organism has 2 copies of a gene for each feature. So we know that because we were putting F1, F1, or F1, F2, or F2, F3 as those gene versions for each spider in that modeling tool. All right, those last two, they talk about homozygous and heterozygous. And so you guys should know from our class this week that 2 copies of a gene for each feature can be the same if they're homozygous, which means that they only make one protein. Now, if they're heterozygous, they have a gene for each feature that can be different, and they provide instructions for 2 types of proteins. All right, so activity 3, we would be doing this together. This would be the last activity that we would be doing together. We're going to review some new data about this ACTN3 protein that we learned about in the previous weeks, and then complete a writing activity. And so you're only going to do one of the 3 prompts, unless you would like to do all 3 of them. All right, so the genetic researchers at Bay Medical Company have sent some new data about the ACTN3 protein and the running ability feature. So this is our letter from Dr. Satari. The genetic researchers at Bay Medical Company are making progress in their research on the ACTN3 protein. They have identified 2 commonly known gene versions that help determine the traits for the feature of running ability, A1 and A2. A1 instructs for the ACTN3 protein. This is the protein that helps muscles contract more rapidly so runners can go faster. Please use this new information, to make predictions about runners in a different scenario. So we know that A1 instructs for the ACTN3 protein. So this A1 gene version we want because we want our runners to be fast. All right, so today you guys are going to do a write and share routine, which we have done before, to identify how evidence can help you understand which proteins and gene versions are connected to the traits for running ability. All right, so these are your groups. If you have a last name A through F, you have student 1, G through N, you have student 2, O through Z, you have student 3. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to read your information carefully. You're going to answer the prompt using the vocab words. And once you have had a chance to write in your Google Slides, you will copy and paste on a Jamboard. Right? If you look on the Jamboard that has already been written on, the first page is second hour, second page is third hour, And then the last 2 pages are 5th and 6th hour. So make sure you are on the correct hour when you are doing this. The way that you are going to get to your Jamboard is through here. So once you are on your Google Slides, you should click there for your Jamboard. On this Google Slides doc, this test is just kind of going over what that letter we just read from Dr. Satari said. All right, this is where you will be writing. So if your last name is A through F, you'll be doing student 1 and answering this question. Everybody will be answering this question in blue and trying to use these vocab words in their response. So this question says, based on the proteins found in the cells, what can you say about their genes? Each student has a different piece of evidence. They're pretty similar, but they are different. All right. So for student 1, the running ability feature, runner 1 had only ACT and 3 proteins in their cell. Runner 2 had ACT and 3 protein as well as another type, and then runner 3 had no ACT3 and protein in their cell. A different protein for a running ability feature was found. All right, so those are the pieces of evidence. You're going to write yours only, unless you would like to do all 3, but I do need you to post in the Jamboard on your correct hour. So whether you're 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th hour, make sure you're completing that on the Jamboard so other people can see. All right, my last question to you would have been, what did you discover about the runner's genes? Okay, so hopefully you noticed, even from our letter from Dr. Satari, that ACTN3 protein, the A1 gene instructs for that ACTN3 protein. So if you have that A1 gene, you're most likely going to be faster than the others. All right, so runner 1 or student 1, that evidence, you have the most evidence as to why your runner is the fastest. These other students, they have either the ACTN3 protein and another protein, or they don't have the ACTN3 protein at all. All right, so we want somebody that's quick. So that's student 1. Runner 1 is going to have the best time for your running or for your race because they are the quickest and they have that ACTN3 protein. Right, the last 2 things that I want you to do are the homework. And so this homework is also in your Google slide. You're going to answer the question in part 1 and read the article and answer the questions in part 2. So on slide 5, you have this one statement. You are just agreeing or disagreeing and explaining why. And then for your second piece, you have an article about the Human Genome Project. And so you've got 3 questions to answer on that, and make sure you answer them in the text boxes below the question. All right. The last thing that I wanted to tell you guys about is this weekly check-in. You're going to complete and submit that week 23 check-in for lesson 2.3 and 2.4 on Canvas. All right. This will not be due until next week, so make sure you get this done. Here are some extension links if you would like to look at any genetics animations. You can learn a little bit more about mutations. This is actually a video that we watched before if you would like to watch it again. And then PBS Learning also has a little bit more on mutations if you're having a hard time with those. All right, guys, that's all I have for you guys today. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys next week.